why did you switch from being in the fitness area as an author, as a fitness model, etc., also as a fitness coach, made the transition to help people with their businesses?
Yeah, a number of things. So I started my online fitness business in 2006, and I transitioned to being a full-time fitness business coach. It would have been, coming up to this summer, it'll be 4 years. So it's been a little over 3.5 years. It comes back to capacity. I had 2 kids at the time. I had my muscle building business. I had a supplement, Preload. I had a clothing company. It's like full-time jobs.
Yeah.
And so, like, who do you know that's actually successful at 4 full-time jobs? Now, a lot of people would say, entrepreneurs, well, didn't you have a team for all those different businesses? I didn't. I was at a stage where I was running marketing, I was running operations, I was wearing too many hats for each of those businesses, and I didn't have the infrastructure. So I had to decide what was most important. That's my definition of winning, by the way. What's important now? WIN. What's important now? And what was most important then was growing my coaching program, my mastermind. And I'd already done fitness videos for probably 12, 13 years, 2006 all the way to 16. Yeah, it would have been well over a decade that I've produced more than 10 years of YouTube videos, hundreds of articles, dozens and dozens of programs. I built 4 different 7-figure online fitness businesses. So I was ready for a transition. And I also had a lot of people coming to me saying, hey, do you teach what you do? And I was doing these little 2-day seminars. And it was funny because I was marketing them to my fitness audience. And I'd have anywhere from 10 to 40 people show up. I charged $2,000 a head. And I did about 4 per year. And I'd sell out every single time, whatever venue I went to. And I was, helping people start their online fitness businesses. But I wasn't selling them what I was an actual product of, which was ongoing coaching and ongoing mastermind. So it's like, hey, guys, come on out to my 2-day event. And then after that, hey, good luck, everybody. I'll put you all in a Facebook group. And a couple guys actually got some major results, 2 of my top students. But for the most part, you don't hear from people again because they don't have the ongoing accountability, the support, the environment. So one of my first mentors, Bedros Keuilian, called me out. And he said, he was getting ready to launch his $50,000 coaching program, Empire. And he said to me, Vince, why don't you have your own mastermind? And I said, that's a good question. Like, it's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of money. I've never sold that price point before. And, what about all my other stuff? And I had some fear. I had some doubt. Like, do I have what it takes? And he said, sometimes you need to borrow somebody else's belief. I'm a huge believer, and my success is really because of people having more belief in me than I had belief in myself. And he believed in me. Bedros Keuilian said, you're one of the OGs of online fitness marketing. If anyone has a fitness coaching program, it should be you. And I said, well, will you show me how to run one? Because Bedros was the only guy at the time who had a mastermind for fitness pros with over 100 members. And I just thought, 100 people at a 5-figure price point, that's insane. And before you know it, within 1 year, I had over 100 members in my coaching program. And then, almost 3 years later, we're over 250 active members. And that's all I do right now. I'm 100% dedicated to online fitness coaches, and I put all my other stuff on hold while we grow this organization. And for now, I'm more than fulfilled and focused on this one venture. For me, marketing is a fancy 9-letter word for test. And you don't know anything until you put it to the test. So I think having an appreciation for the process, and often knowing that like the process is far more painful than you expect. Like, it'll have to go through multiple renditions. It might not, be a unicorn on the first try, right? And just appreciating that this is probably going to cost you more time, money, and effort, probably 10 times more time, money and effort than you anticipate. Once you accept it's going to likely be way harder than you think, you'll be able to manage, like, hey, you know what, I'm going to put this out there and it's probably going to get some feedback that I'm not, thrilled about, but I'm going to use that feedback to make it better. And because I've got a vision in the long term, I'm going to be okay with the frustration I need to go through to develop the fruit that I'm after. So I think I think it's just, trusting that imperfect action will get you the feedback you need to constantly improve, and to be okay with, I've always been somebody okay with, hitting a lot of singles instead of trying to hit a home run. I don't know why, but I'm okay just kind of moving around the bases, one what is it, one plate at a time or whatever. So I don't need to hit a home run on my first swing. So I will, and I also have learned that my competition has the same problems as me. My competition is fearful of launching and procrastinates and wants it to be. So I'm like, that can be my unfair advantage. Just putting stuff out there can give me an unfair advantage over people that are way smarter than me and way better than me, but I've got more guts and courage. So I win on something different than my actual skill set. I just win because I put myself out there. So I'm kind of playing to my strengths. And I think just trusting that you're somebody that's not going to give up, trusting that you're someone who's going to accept the feedback, trusting that you're going to take this thing all the way, and that it will have to be a painful process to get it to where you ultimately want. I think that will provide some grace and, maybe some mercy upon yourself to just say, hey, I'm just going to go for it, and we'll accept the feedback as we go. If it works out faster than we anticipated, that's a bonus. I was a runner and I was a triathlete. So I grew up in the endurance world. And, I grew up in the world where we raced 10K in university, and the coach would always tell you the race doesn't start until the halfway mark. And I don't know, that really made a lot of sense to me. It's like anybody can run the first half of the race hard, but typically where you start seeing the runners get sorted out is in the second half of the race. And you see this in all areas of life. You see, pro bodybuilders and athletes peaking in their early 20s or their late 20s, and then all of a sudden they have an injury, and then they can't train anymore. They're on the sidelines. Their career's over. And I don't know. I've always been more attracted to the way of life that allows me to go the distance. Those are the words I like, and that outlasts people. I think maybe I really like that that fable, the tortoise and the hare. I could really relate to the tortoise. Slow and steady wins the race. Inch by inch, life is a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard. I've resonated with that more. I look at things from the lens of sustainability, and I have an interesting definition of success, and it's experiences optimized over time. Experiences optimized over time. So am I able to optimize what I'm doing over time? If I'm able to, I consider that a success. Like if I can keep training hard, that's success. If I can keep producing profits in my business and growing my team, that's a success. If I can continue to stay healthy and have a strong relationship with my wife and kids, that's considered success. So how do I optimize my experience, but over the long term, not, the next 30 days, not in the next 1 year. And that starts to give you a sense of peace for, how you're running the race, where there's a lot of runners in the race and some guys are way ahead and you're like, man, oh man, that guy just hit 100 million. Holy cow, that guy just exited his company. Oh man, what am I doing wrong? I'm like, yeah, but you know what? He's going at a certain pace, and there's not a right or wrong way to run the race. Every runner has to figure out how are you going to run the race. And for me, it's always made sense to run the second half of the race stronger than the first half of the race.
And could you translate those principles, like the principles you've learned with triathlon and endurance sports? How did that apply for yourself to fitness and bodybuilding?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really is that mindset that the race is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Like a lot of people go out hard. So if you think about a race, let's think about a 10K again. You can run hard for the first 1 or 2 kilometers and you can be in the front of the pack and everyone's taking pictures like, look, he's in the front of the pack, and you can, have your kind of moment of glory, but there's still 8 kilometers to run.
Yeah.
Like, this is a long race. This is a long race. So I think it's having a vision of where you want to be at the end of the race. Knowing that if I want to actually come top 3, I want to be an all Canadian or I want to win the race. Like if I run with the leaders, am I going to be able to sustain that? Or should I maybe kind of sit in the back and kind of just coast, just kind of hang into the back and then start to make my move, right? You have to think of like, how am I going to get to my end outcome, my desired end state without like burning out, without dropping out, without over exceeding my capacity too early. And I think that's something that's really interesting to discuss. We all have limited resources and we have to figure out how am I going to allocate my resources, right? When I was single, I had a lot more resources. I had a lot more time. When I didn't have 3 kids, I had a lot more time. I could kind of waste time. Now I can't waste time. So you have to be, it always comes back to, you're looking at my athletics, the endurance world, translating it into bodybuilding. Now it's the same thing. Like there's guys in the gym who are trying to get big overnight, and you can make some good gains if you lift really heavy, you crank up the volume. But then what happens next? You blow out your shoulder, your knee sore, your hip is bugging you. All right, you're burned out. Your testosterone levels plummet. Now you're not sleeping properly. Now let's just kind of translate that into a 16-week contest prep. So what do I do now? I've got 12 weeks before the show and I don't have any resources. My body isn't functioning in a way to keep training hard to burn off the fat. So I just screwed myself. Another example is like if you're trying to lose body fat, what a lot of people do is they do too many extremes all at once. So they add the cardio, they cut their carbs, they train 2 times a day. Well, when I was working with one of the top bodybuilders in the world, my calories were very high. I was doing very slow cardio. And because it was a 16-week prep, we didn't up the ante until near the end. And everything went up in increments. And that's the sign of an expert. Somebody that knows that we're not going to throw everything at the body to get results overnight. Extremes always lead to extreme disappointment. So it's, again, having a vision. Where do I need to be in 16 weeks? I need to be 4% body fat. Right now, I'm 22% body fat. I need to be training twice a day consistently those last 4 weeks. So if I blow all my gaskets in the first 4 weeks of the prep, I just screwed myself over. So, what we're trying to do in life is coax the growth, coax the gains, not force the gains. So that's how we, and in order to do that, we have to go slow. And that's what I learned, smooth is slow and slow is fast. So we got to just we got to keep going smooth, right? And that, again, always comes back to having a vision of where you want to end up. And a lot of times, success in life is just not, screwing up or just staying in the game. I've passed so many people in fitness and in business just because I'm still going, not because I got better, but because they quit or they dropped out because they were at a pace they couldn't sustain. So I didn't catch up. They just dropped out of the race. Our expertise is helping fitness coaches sell their services for a premium. So when I first started, my products were all like $47 to $77. But what we teach our students how to do is how to sell their 12-week program or 6-month program for anywhere from $1,000 to $6,000. And we use something called the A4 treatment, which stands for attention, affirmation, accountability, and access. So when you're joining a high ticket coaching program, when you're paying more money, you get those 4 things that you don't get when you just buy an ebook.
Mhm.
And we teach them how to communicate their value so that they can charge those higher price points. So, you don't need many clients to be earning $10,000 to $20,000 a month with a very profit-rich business. So one of the very first things that we do with our students is we help them figure out mom, because you can't have a family without mom, and you can't have a
Mhm.
business without mom. And mom stands for messaging. Sorry, let me go back. Stands for marketplace, offer, messaging, and then method of attracting clients. MOMM.
Mhm.
And that's the foundation of every big business, in any niche. So who are we talking to? What is the offer? What is your messaging in terms of how are you different? How are you better? Because that's what the online fitness coaches don't have. They call themselves online fitness coaches, which is basically like calling yourself a personal trainer. So why in the world would I hire you when there's thousands of personal trainers out there? So we teach them how to position themselves differently based on an expertise.
Mhm.
So instead of calling yourself online fitness coach, you could call yourself muscle building expert,
Mhm.
or, stubborn belly fat coach. So it's like, oh, I've got stubborn belly fat. So little
Mhm.
things like that, you'd be shocked how much of a difference that is. And then we figure out how do they attract clients, whether they're using Instagram or Facebook. And we have something that's called the C4 method for exploding your business. And the C4 method breaks down the 4 pillars of selling high ticket, which is great content, productive conversations, simple sales system, and cash collected. So when you look at a business just from those 4 lenses, content, conversations, calls, cash collected, we can start to create systems around all of those pillars in the business. And that's what we specifically coach our students on. And then obviously, as the business gets bigger, they need support around building a team, better systems, more structure, more automations, more team members, and more visibility on their brand, more followers. So we help students go all the way from having launched a business all the way up to over 7 figures. We have a few students who are doing, over $200,000 a month just
Mhm.
selling online fitness coaching. So it's pretty cool. I've stayed true to the market. Like, I don't coach business coaches. I coach online fitness coaches. Maybe I'll do that down the road, but I have goals first to serve the fitness market before I venture out.
How do you approach this topic of personal branding? I mean, this is like one of the. I feel like nowadays with the social media platforms, it's very important to build your, like, next to your business brand, to build your personal brand as well. And so it's also like, especially with fitness coaches, it's part of your positioning. And what are your best tips to build a personal brand?
Yeah,
And
so I think,
how should you allocate your energy?
yeah, so for me, the definition of a brand is a promise repeated over and over and over.
Hmm.
So what's the brand promise of my coaching program? It's to help you scale without losing your soul. That's it. It's to help you scale your business without losing your soul. And what I mean by losing your soul is that you don't lose what's most important to you, your faith, your fitness, your family, that you can make a lot of money and you don't have to lose yourself in the process. That's my brand promise. So why do I share so much family content? Because that's reinforcing the brand, right?
Mm.
Why do I share my ventures, my trips and all that? Because it's reinforcing that you can have a great life, you can travel with your family, and you can work, reasonable hours, and you don't have to work weekends.
Yeah.
So I want to I want to show people that's possible. I want to stay in great shape. I want to show people that, hey, I share my faith on my platform and it doesn't seem to be hurting me. And I want to demonstrate that. So a personal brand is going to come down to who you are. It's what your beliefs are. So for me, I've got some very simple convictions and I do my best to demonstrate those through my work, through my life, and through my students' work and through my students' results. So that's how I see a brand in the context of what I do. Life is a gamble. Every single decision you make in life is a gamble. And
Yeah.
I try and think about my decisions, not 10 minutes out or 10 months out, but I try and think about my decisions 10 years out. And where does this decision play out in 10 years from now? So now when I zoom out 10 years, I start thinking about my kids. My kids are 2, 5, and 7. So in 10 years, they're going to be 12, 15, and 17. So I'm asking myself, are the actions that I'm taking going to promote confident, strong, non-fear-based kids?